Injuries in greyhounds can range from minor to major, and either way, it's important to attend to them as soon as possible. Now, to do this, you need the right first aid kit on hand. We're here with Dr. Chris Boemo. Chris, tell us how important it is for greyhound breeders, trainers and rearers to have basic first aid materials at home.
Andrew, we know that there are going to be injuries that occur for our dogs at various stages of their race career, whether it be on the rearing farm or trial track or at the racetrack. At the racetrack, obviously the OTVs will assist them. On the trial track or in the galloping paddocks, we need to be able to provide some basic first aid. And so in order to provide that basic first aid, we need to have some basic first aid materials. And that is something to stop bleeding or compress bleeding, to support an injured limb, to support a fractured limb, and to hold whatever dressings we put on in place until we can get to definitive treatment.
Now, you brought some things out of your cupboard here today at your vet clinic here in Keysborough. What have you got here that you think are useful for trainers?
Well, let's go from, say, treating a bleeding wound to start off with. We need to be able to cover that wound and put some compression on it. So maybe some sterile or clean gauze squares or even clean material placed directly over the wound. And then we want to pad that wound to absorb any further bleeding and if it's a fracture, to support it. So we want to have either a commercially available cotton wool wrapping type material that we can wrap the whole limb in or the affected area in. We don't need the cotton wool wrap. We could use something like combine dressing, which has a padding material in it, and that comes in different sizes. We could even use basic cotton wool that we can wrap the whole limb in if it's a fractured hock or a fractured metacarpal or a fractured metatarsal or a fractured forearm or a tibia. And then by just putting this on, it's not going to stay in place. So we need something to hold it in place. And so something like a conforming bandage which stretches and flexes, and we can wrap the limb in that, or wrap the bandaging in that to hold the bandaging in place. And then we can provide some further compression to the site to give it extra support by one of the conforming bandages. And there are large numbers of those around outside.
So plenty of variety here, depending on the injury, on what you might use. Where can people get this sort of stock?
All this sort of thing is available from any vet. So lots of vets will be able to provide you with that sort of material. There are certainly chemists will provide you with various bandaging type materials, and even some of the local supermarkets will have a range of things. And you don't need to have one of everything. You don't need to have 5 of everything, because it's not going to be a frequent occurrence that you're going to have a large number of injuries. So you only need a small amount of each, enough to cover your requirements.
In an emergency situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are people looking at paying for what they need here?
Well, it depends on how much you're going to get. And I don't think you need large amounts. You could have a small number of the gauze squares together with maybe a conforming bandage and a couple of rolls of cotton wool, or the cotton wool bandaging material, and 1 or 2 vet wrap bandages. And that's all you're going to need to cover most of your eventualities. And you might spend $20 to $40 on that and have it in a small bag or box that you can convey around with you.
Okay, so where should people keep these? In the home, at the kennel, in the car?
Well, obviously it should be transportable. So you don't necessarily need one at home, one in the kennel and one in the car. You could have one that you transport from point A to point B to point C, depending upon where you are. And that's going to cut your costs down. And as long as you remember where it is, you'll be able to access it if you need it.